Good evening. My name is Michael Adeyamo, and for my leadership presentation, I decided to do the Honorable late Nelson Mandela. He was the former president of South Africa, as well as the founder of the African Nelson Mandela Children's Institute and the Nelson Mandela Foundation. A lot of people know Nelson Mandela not only as president, but as a philanthropist, as a revolutionary leader. He has a very huge impact on the African community, not only in South Africa, but in Africa, world nationwide. Part of the reason why I chose to do him as for my leadership presentation is growing up as a first generation American, but with a Nigerian culture. In both cultures, I saw plenty of very strong African American role models. But while there are like many African role models, there's not as a few as that are very impactful as President Mandela. And he was always someone that I sought to improve after and try to strive to be. Based on his leadership style was very focused on optimism and peace. Everything that he ever came across, or everything that he ever had to deal with, whether he was able to achieve his goals or whether he was wrong in the end, he always found the bright side of things and was able to see his goals through. Some of his accomplishments have been listed right there, as you can see. Nelson Mandela has obtained numerous monuments, awards, I think he even has a Nobel Peace Prize that has been reached out there towards everywhere worldwide. He has been a very, very pretty impactful person, especially in my family. Of course, I've never had the privilege of meeting Mr. Mandela, but my grandfather did. My grandfather was late Chief Samuel Adeyamo, and he got to meet Nelson Mandela right after he took role of chief in our village in Lagos, Nigeria. As I said before, his leadership style was very focused on peace and optimism. He was one of those people that I saw that you don't have to be a big revolutionary person in order to, ensure peace and ensure, kindness, yet he was. It all kind of just basically builds down to an experience I had in my undergraduate career. We had an opportunity for Dan Rather to come down, and Dan Rather came, and I was selected to go to a judge panel, not a judge panel, but like a welcoming event panel, to where we had a very fancy dinner. So we got to sit down and talk to him. I got to sit next to Mr. Rather, and we spoke about his interview that he did with Nelson Mandela back when he was alive. And Mr. Rather gave me a piece of paper that had the word courage in it. And I never quite understood what it meant. And at the end of the day, I finally just not gave in, but went to Mr. Rather and asked him, what does it mean? And he said to look up a quote from Nelson Mandela, which was, he had said, courage has been seen as the absence of fear, but it's really the absence of failure. And it really impacted me, because if some of y'all knew some of my story of why and how I got here, that failure isn't an option, but it's something that we unfortunately have to come across. But it's whether we get up and move on from it, rather than sitting down and dwelling over it. That kind of defines who we are. I feel that Nelson Mandela is a very great example of that. Not saying that he has failed in anything, but in times where other people will just kind of give in to what's expected of him, or give up the current situation he has, instead of getting very vengeful and seeking revenge and striving back to get back at those who wronged him, he simply focused on what was needed and ensured peace, and was learned there to able to turn the other cheek. That's one of the main reasons why I chose Nelson Mandela. Are there any questions?
What was the quote about courage?
Courage is known, his quote was, I used to think that courage was the absence of fear, but I realized it's the absence of failure.